Hi everyone, in this short video we're talking about the connective tissue. Connective tissue is one of our main tissue types in the body. So tissue is the collection of the cells working together, and then we have four major tissues in our body: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. So connective tissue is the tissue that is going to connect the other structures together or bind and supports the body parts. So let's see what is the structure of the connective tissue. So for connective tissue, we can define cells plus extracellular matrix. So extracellular matrix, it means everything gonna be found around the cells. So the cells of the connective tissue would be different type of cells. For example, we have fibroblast, which the fibroblast is the primary type of the cell, is going to produce the extracellular matrix. And also we can find the adipose cells or fat cells, stem cell, which the cells are able to divide and produce the other types of cells. So we can find different type of cells in connective tissue with different functions. And also we can find fibers like collagen fiber, which is a flexible and a strong type of fiber. We have reticular fiber, which these fibers are thin and they are highly branched collagen fibers. And then we have elastic fibers, which these fibers are also branched and stretchable, which means they can be stretched and then they can be recoiled. So, and also we can find ground substance. The ground substance is the part of the connective tissue which is the non-cellular part. Actually, the ground substance is filling the spaces between cells and between fibers. So it can be different in different type of connective tissue. So make sure you know connective tissue is composed of cells, ground substance, and fibers. So specialized cells like fibroblast, adipose cells or fat cells, stem cells. We talked about the ground substance, which is non-cellular material found between the cells and fibers, and also protein fibers. Protein fibers, we divided them to the collagen fibers, the most strongest type of fiber in our body, and then reticular fiber, which they are thin and the highly branched type of collagen fiber, but they are not strong like collagen fiber, and elastic fiber, which they are protein fibers, they can stretch and recoil. So we actually can find different type of connective tissue. We are going to divide connective tissue to the fibrous connective tissue, supportive connective tissue, and fluid connective tissue. So fibrous connective tissue, we have loose and dense connective tissue, which loose connective tissue means the fibers create loose and open framework, and dense means that they have actually densely packed fibers in their structure. And supporting connective tissue is cartilage and bone, and for fluid connective tissue we have blood and lymph. So let's take a look at this picture. So as you can see here, you can actually see the part of the knee joint and see how many connective tissue we can find here. That is a bone, right? Bone is a connective tissue. And then you can find cartilage. Cartilage is a connective tissue. You can see the tendon. Tendon is also a connective tissue. Then under the skin, or the part of the skin, is connective tissue. Fats that you can find under skin and also around the joint is a connective tissue. So as you can see, all of them are connective tissue. Loose fibrous connective tissue just under the skin, hyaline cartilage found in joints, compact bone, which is a connective tissue, adipose tissue. So we can find actually different type of connective tissue in our body. Okay, let's start with the fibrous connective tissue, loose and dense. So as we mentioned, the fibers are going to make a loose and open framework. So in these type of connective tissue, fibroblasts, which they are primary cells in the connective tissue, they are responsible to produce the extracellular matrix. So it contains fibroblasts and also ground substance and fibers like the other type of connective tissue. We can divide the loose connective tissue into the areolar connective tissue, reticular connective tissue, and adipose connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue is the supporting tissue for epithelium because epithelium is avascular tissue. It means it does not have blood vessel. So areolar connective tissue always going to be found under the epithelium and supporting the epithelium, and also it can be found around the organs and Cauchen's organs. Reticular connective tissue, because it has many reticular fibers, so it's going to form a supportive mesh for soft tissues. Adipose connective tissue, they compose of adipocyte or fat cells. We consider fat as the energy sources. So then adipose tissue stores fat as the energy source, and also they can provide insulation and also cushioning. Where can we find adipose tissue? Just under the skin. You can see the adipose tissue or fat tissue around some organs, like around the kidneys. You can find adipose tissue. The breast tissue is almost like adipose tissue. Okay. So then let's go over dense fibrous connective tissue. As we said, we have densely packed fibers, which mostly are collagen fibers, which provide strength and elasticity. So the type of dense fibrous connective tissue, which is important to know, is one of them is called tendon and then ligament. So these are example of the dense fibrous connective tissue. Tendons are the structure connect muscle to bones, and ligaments are the structure connecting bone to bones. Next, let's talk about the supportive connective tissue, which we have cartilage and bone. So they are important for giving structure, shape to our body, for protection. The bone would be like leverage for movement as the muscles connect to the bone, and cartilage is also important in structure and shape, but the cartilage is more flexible than bone because the bone matrix is mineralized. It means that we have the calcium and phosphate deposited on bone, but the cartilage matrix is not mineralized. That's the reason cartilage is more flexible than bone. And now let's talk about the cartilage, one of the supporting connective tissue. So as we mentioned, the cartilage is more flexible than bone because of no mineralization, no calcium and phosphate in the cartilage matrix. And like other type of connective tissue, we have to define cells and extracellular matrix. So the cells are called chondrocyte, which chondrocyte would be found inside of a small chamber, which is called lacunae. So as you can see here, that is a histology picture of cartilage. So you can see the chondrocyte here inside of this space, which is called lacunae. And then matrix, which is like everything gonna be found around these cells. So it's solid but it's flexible, and also it's avascular, means that it does not have any blood supply or blood vessels. And so that's the reason if you break the cartilage, there is no bleeding, and also there is no pain because they don't have nerve as well. And this lack of blood vessels is resulting in slow healing. So if you like damage your cartilage, this is kind of very hard to be healed by itself. Next, let's talk about the different type of cartilage. So we have these three type of cartilages in our body. We have a hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. The hyaline cartilage, they are in their matrix, we have the collagen fibers. These collagen fibers are fine collagen fibers. They're giving them strength, but not really. And this is actually the most abundant type of cartilage in our body, and it's the weakest type of cartilage. This type of cartilage would be found in the tip of the nose. Just touch your nose. Your nose is cartilaginous, the part of it, right? The tip of your nose is cartilage because it's flexible, right? That is a hyaline cartilage. And also the long bones, the ending of the long bones, we have the cartilage kind of covering the ending of the long bones and would be involved in making the joint. So here, which is called the articular cartilage. It is the hyaline cartilage. And also fetal skeleton, it means your skeleton before birth, it was the hyaline cartilage. How about the elastic cartilage? So as the name of this cartilage is descriptive, the matrix is full of the elastic fibers. So then it's let the cartilage to stretch and recoil. So the location, the outer ear, your outer ear is an elastic cartilage. But how about the fibrocartilage? Fibrocartilage is the strongest type of cartilage in our body because it has many strong collagen fiber. As we mentioned before, collagen is the strongest type of fiber in our body, and in fibrocartilage we have many and many of these strong collagen fibers. Where can we find the fibrocartilage? You know, the disc between vertebrae. This structure is called intervertebral disc. So intervertebral disc is the structure going to be found between vertebrae, as inter means between. So that should be very strong as all of our weight passing through our spine. So that is made up of fibrocartilage. Now let's talk about the bone. So bone is another type of supportive connective tissue. It's important for our structure, shape, protection, movement, and also mineral storage. So it's kind of protecting our vital organs, as the skull is making a house for our brain, our chest cage is making a house for our heart and lungs. Then the muscle would be attached to the bones, making leverage for movement. And also in our bone matrix, we are going to store or deposit calcium and phosphate. So we can say the bone would be involved in mineral storage. Now let's take a look at the bone structure. So the bone is very rigid, and this rigidity comes from the like components of the bone matrix. So in bone matrix we have collagen fiber. Collagen fiber, it's giving strength and also elasticity and flexibility to the bone tissue. It's hard because of this calcium salt or calcium phosphate. So this calcium salt would be deposited on the bone matrix, just surrounding all of the protein fibers and giving them like hardness. So that's the reason that our bone tissue is very rigid. But do you remember we said that in connective tissue composed of cells and extracellular matrix? We talked about the extracellular matrix. Extracellular matrix of the bone is composed of many collagen fibers and also calcium phosphate or calcium salt as the mineral part. But what about the cells? So bone cells, we have osteocyte, osteoblast, and osteoclast. Osteo means bone. So osteocyte means the bone cells found within lacunae, which lacunae is a house, is a kind of a space or cavity the osteocyte would be found in. So lacunae only gonna be found in cartilage and bone tissue. So lacunae of bone contains osteocyte, and lacunae in cartilage contains chondrocyte, as chondro means cartilage. And also don't forget, we have the bone cells. They are building new bone, is called osteoblast, and we have the bone cells. They are resorbing bone tissue or breaking down the bone matrix, is called osteoclast. So that's the reason our bone tissue is always alive, always is rebuilding new bone and breaking down the old bone. Then let's take a look at the blood, which is the fluid connective tissue. So again, as other connective tissue, we have to define cells and extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix of the blood is actually 90% water, and we call this as plasma. So plasma would be the liquid part of the blood, which is the extracellular matrix. It is composed of 90% water, and also we can find nutrients, fibers, the ions inside of the plasma. But what about the blood cells? The blood cells are called form elements, which includes red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cell also called as erythrocyte, as erythro means red and cyte means cell. They are responsible to carry oxygen throughout the body. So as you can see in this picture, these are red blood cells, the most abundant type of form element in the blood. And then white blood cells, which you can see the cells with nucleus, these are white blood cells. The white blood cells are part of our immune system. It means that they fight infections and they are actually part of our immune system, or they are immune cells. We can call them as leukocytes. And platelets, which they are this tiny fragment of the cell, is called platelet or thrombocytes. Their job is to form blood clots to prevent bleeding. So as you can see in our blood, we have 3 different type of form elements. Each have different name, different structure, and different function. So here we have platelets for blood clotting, RBC for the carrying oxygen, and white blood cell to fight against microorganism. Thank you so much for watching.